Hey, it's Chris Allingham with the Virtual Weber Bullet. Today I'm going to talk to you about rib rings from the Barbecue Guru. This is rib rings. It's a circular rib rack. It measures 15 and 5/8 inches. This part measures 15 and 5/8 inches around. This part is a drip pan that goes under it. It measures 16 and 3/8 of an inch around. The rib rings consist of concentric circles. There's an outer ring right here, there's a center ring right here, and then there's an opening in the middle that can also take ribs. According to the people at Barbecue Guru, you can fit 3 whole slabs of ribs in the outer ring, 2 whole slabs in the center ring, 1 slab in this middle ring, or a chicken in here. So either 6 slabs of ribs or 5 slabs of ribs and a chicken. This is made of steel with nickel-plated chroming, very much like what you find on your normal cooking grate in your Weber smoker or kettle grill. This comes with a little instruction sheet here that tells you how to use it. It also comes with a little stainless steel probe holder. Here's a video that shows how this snaps into place. It's not that intuitive until you watch the video on the Barbecue Guru website and you see it done. Once you've seen it done, it's easy to understand how it works. But this holds your probe up off the cooking surface, up above your ribs, so that you can have one probe maybe in your ribs or in that chicken, and then have your air probe up above here where it's not in the way. Now, some other things that Barbecue Guru says about this patent pending design. The first and only accessory to conserve grilling space by placing ribs in an upright circular pattern. I got bombarded with advertising about rib rings on my Facebook feed, and I thought, man, circular rib rack sounds familiar. So I went back on the Virtual Weber bulletin board, did some searching, and I found that way back in August of 2004, we had members talking about, wouldn't it be cool if you had a round rib rack, either concentric circles or maybe a spiral pattern that would let you put whole slabs of ribs on their edge in a rib rack. Barbecue Guru, 14 years later, finally came up with it as an actual product, so good for them. But it's an idea that's been around for a long time. It just shows you it takes someone to not just have an idea, but to actually bring it to reality. That's where it gets done. So good for Barbecue Guru. As I also mentioned before, rib rings comes with this aluminum drip pan. It sits underneath the rib rings, catches all the drips and gunk that are generated. You'll notice that there's little feet, five little feet here underneath the rib rings rib rack that elevate this above the drip pan, so your ribs are not down in the grease, they're elevated above it. The ribs are sitting just even with the even with the top edge of the pan, so the heat and smoke come right in. It's a nice little detail, I think. A nice way to keep your cooker clean if you don't want to use a water pan, or if you have another smoker that doesn't have a water pan. Nice little idea here to catch your grease from the ribs. Let's talk about how many ribs actually fit inside the rib rings. The material says you can fit 6 slabs of ribs or 5 slabs in a chicken. I got 3 slabs of St. Louis style ribs and 3 racks of baby back ribs. I tried getting smaller ribs because I just wanted to see if I could get those to fit in the rib rings. I know that a lot of the loin back ribs, the baby backs you get at Costco, for example, are very thick and meaty on one end. I wasn't sure those would fit inside the rib rings, so I intentionally tried to buy smaller slabs just to give rib rings the benefit of the doubt. And you can see in some of these pictures here that as I'm trying to fit them in, it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. And some would fit in one place, but then I couldn't get another slab of ribs in another. I finally got it to where I got 5 slabs in, and I was down to 1 remaining baby back slab, and it was just too thick to fit down inside the rib rings. And I guess I could have cut off some of that meat, but instead I just let it sit up above the ring, and it didn't do any harm. It wasn't down inside of where it was supposed to be, but it was okay. It cooked fine. I think my recommendation to you is, when using rib rings, get them all trimmed up and ready to go. I get out the rib rings, and I think I would try to fit them in advance and decide what's going to go where. And once you've got that puzzle figured out, then I would go ahead and season the ribs and then place them in the rib rings. You may need to shorten some of the slabs. You may need to think about buying, as I said, smaller slabs. I don't think you really have a problem with spare ribs, however, if you're doing St. Louis style spare ribs. They're so flat by nature that the only issue you really have is the length of them. So you may need to cut off maybe one of the scrawny bones at one end to make it fit. The issue really will be with the loin back ribs because they have that very strong curvature and oftentimes a lot of meat on the one end. You'll have to be creative in how you fit those in to the rib rings. One problem I had was how to fit rib rings on top of the 18.5 inch cooking grate. You notice that there's handles on the side, and if you try to use the drip pan, it doesn't fit in between the handles. It will sit on top, but then it's not very stable. I decided not to use this pan. I went with just the rib rack. I loaded it with ribs and I took it outside, and I couldn't figure out how to get it to fit here either. And I found there was one configuration where I could slip the handle through a gap in the rib rings and it would sit flat on here. What I didn't stop to think about until later was that I could have just flipped this upside down, and then I can put both the drip pan and the rib rings on top of that flat surface. So if you're going to use this in the 18-inch Smokey Mountain Cooker, make sure to turn your top cooking grate upside down. Otherwise, you'll have plenty of room for it in a 22.5 inch Weber Smokey Mountain, in a 24-inch Weber Summit charcoal grill, or other larger round kettles and smokers. So how did these ribs turn out that I cooked in the rib rings? Well, they turned out pretty good. There was one slab on the outside ring that was a little bit overdone. There was one slab in the middle ring that was a little underdone, had to go back in to finish cooking. But for the most part, they were all about the same. I was able to spray them with apple juice throughout the process, more easily on the outside of the ring than on the inside, of course. They were all pretty much done about the same. And when they came out and got some sauce brushed onto them, any little issues, glitches with the coloration of the ribs were taken care of by the sauce. No one complained about these ribs. We ate them here at home. I shared some with my neighbor. I shared some with my family. And everybody said they tasted great. So in terms of how the rib rings worked, I'd say they worked just as I'd expect any rib rack to work. Okay, let's talk about cleanup. This is a big rib rack. The amount of time and effort it takes to clean a rib rack is directly proportional to the size of the rib rack and how much material it has. There's a lot going on here. So it does take some effort to clean. I put it in my dishwasher, which is something I never ever do. I didn't use any detergent. I just put it on the lower rack and I ran a high heat scrub cycle. And I thought at first it cleaned it up good, but when I took it out, I noticed there was a lot of stuff still left on the rib rack. Lots of stuff had kind of dried up and gotten flaky, but didn't actually come off. So I did end up washing it in the kitchen sink with soap and water and a scrubber. And as you can see, it looks nice and shiny. It does clean up well after running 6 slabs of ribs through it, but it does take some effort to clean. Okay, what about the price? Rib Rings sells for $49.99 on the BBQ Guru website. I paid $22.03 shipping to California, so my total was $72.02. It's a lot of money for a rib rack, but there's a lot here. Whether or not it's worth the money to you depends on how important it is for you to be able to cook 6 slabs of ribs, whole slabs of ribs on edge at one time on one level in your smoker. Imagine having 2 of these. You could actually do 12 whole slabs of ribs on edge in your smoker. Something to think about if whole slabs of ribs are important to you. Well, that's it for this review of rib rings from the BBQ Guru. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting. If you have other things you'd like to see me review, just drop me a note through email and I'll give it some thought. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.